Thanks for joining us this morning for what is a really exciting members launch of our new materials framework, and it really is a pleasure to be here and to host the session. Hopefully most of you will know me. I'm Andrew Gray. I'm the member relationships manager. But the sort of star of this morning's show, so to speak, is Jeff Eddington, who again many of you will know, and we were delighted at Fusion. Well, it's several months ago now, or might even be longer than that, when Jeff came to join us with the expectation of putting together this framework. Again, those of you who know Fusion, we have had, well, since the very inception of the organisation, a strong materials offer, albeit it was primarily around what I described as the planned materials arena, and we didn't have a comprehensive offer that we currently have. So deliberately we spent a lot of time, and Jeff and colleagues have spent a lot of time putting together what we believe is a really comprehensive offer for the market, spending time with you, our members, with the supply chain, and everyone listening and understanding where the innovation is, how we can develop that comprehensive offer. And we're delighted to be able to share that with you this morning. For those of you, just very quickly, if anybody isn't familiar with this GoToWebinar software, I'll just quickly run through the orange arrow at the top of your control panel. You can click on the arrow in the orange box, and that will reduce the size of that panel so you can see more of the presentation. If you click on the audio, hopefully everybody's able to hear us, but if you click on the audio box, you can adjust the audio settings. If you are having real difficulty in hearing us, sometimes logging in and logging back out again can work. The other thing is that we are wanting you to have the ability to ask any questions, and we've got two options basically. So please fill in your questions using the question box. At the moment you are on mute, but we can unmute you, and if you want to put your question in person, perhaps sort of write the question and then respond in the usual way. So without further ado now, I'll hand over to Jeff, and he'll go through the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. It's getting on for nearly a year since I've actually been here, so things are moving forward, of course. Yeah, welcome everyone. This is quite an exciting presentation today because we've spent an immense amount of time putting together what really was a framework that's capable of addressing the challenges that we all find in the public sector at the moment. It was very much designed and developed with the engagement of members and suppliers, really along the question of what is it that you wanted, what is the reality of the present day procurement situation. So without further ado, let's go on further. Next one, please, Andrew. No, that one. So what I'm really going to talk about is our current frameworks, then the materials supply framework, which obviously you all want to talk about, the call-off options, the social values, the next steps, and then at the end we're going to do a Q&A. So if we go on, Andrew. So our current structure is along these lines. The services that we provide basically cut into three categories of construction, compliance, and heating and renewables. And materials supply has been added to this to really enhance the offering that we give and make it more of a market focused offering to provide more options and range. So that's the sort of reasoning behind it. Can we go on, Andrew? Thank you. And again. Okay, so the process that we went through was exactly this, to make sure that we were completely OJU compliant. We started back in April with the original PIN that we put out, and then gradually progressed. And at all stages, we're making sure that we were at every turn completely compliant with OJU, so that the offering was a fully functional and regulated offering. And as you can see, that it progressed through, and we launched it live on the 11th of November, so a couple of weeks ago. And we will issue the award notice and the report, which is required by the end of the month, after we've got all the contracts signed and the agreements signed with all the suppliers. Next one, please, Andrew. Thank you. So the evaluation process that we went through was one that was very, very direct questioning. We spent a lot of time putting questions together that we felt were the questions that you as organisations would want to know. And we went into some very great depth with an exhaustive process of looking at all the aspects that one would expect from a really top-notch supply base. So the assessment and evaluation was on a 50-50 basis between price and quality. We gave them a list of a catalogue of products for each lot that they were bidding for, and they were asked to price those in the best way they possibly could. And then in the quality area, we delved into such questions as how they would deliver a contract, if they could interface the branch network, van stock, managed service, the KPIs, and were they able to actually even report on those KPIs in a accurate and correct manner. Equally important was the value for money and price maintenance. I think all of us have experienced occasions when perhaps price maintenance was not always what we expected, shall I put it that way. And I know with one of the attendees, I've had a conversation along that lines only in the last couple of days. So the supply chain management, and then we went on to social value. But all these questions were in such a manner and posed in such a manner that they had to be answered directly, not in some kind of corporate answer, to ensure that we only got the best of the people that applied. Next, please, Andrew. So we received a total of 29 bids, 29 different companies. That actually resulted in over 60 submissions, because there are 9 lots on this particular framework. We then went with 15 of our internal personnel, and we put 2 people on each question so that we could have them independently assessed and evaluated in a scoring mechanism that we used. 22 were successful. In other words, there were 7 that actually didn't pass the initial test. So what we came up with was that after we'd engaged with the suppliers and engaged also with the members, it was very clear that a couple of questions came out and a couple of requirements. One was that, could we make the scope of this framework as wide as possible? Could we it become almost a one-shop stop? So how we eventually put it together and structured it was that we had building materials, electrical, plumbing and heating, managed service, roofing, kitchens, windows and doors, aids and adaptations, and bathrooms. So there are 9 lots there. You'll notice there is one missing because it jumps from 4 to 6. That was because we were going to put in a lot for independent merchanting, but we felt ultimately that it was better if they were actually just incorporated into the normal the lots here. And at some point in future, we may very well bring that back. But at the moment, we felt this was the best route and the way we could service the market in the best possible way. Next, please, Andrew. So an example of the materials that were in each of the lots. So from lots 1 to 6 here, you can see underneath here that we have a number of categories that come into that lot, which is pretty wide reaching and very specific to the lot. Although one would say that there are certain elements that actually go across several lots. For instance, building materials has a lot of electrical and plumbing and heating in it, when we've also got lots there as well. And managed service, as you would expect, covers just about everything under the sun. The applications for these, it's material supply, so it's looking after R&M, a direct DLO, or your own LATCO can actually take part in this, and a planned maintenance program. So, you know, wherever you need to have material supply within your organization, this is tailored to actually satisfy that need. Next, please. So from 7 to 10, similar kind of thing with kitchen units and complete whatever you want for a kitchen, you can get from that one. Same with windows and doors. Aids and adapts is a sort of an area that tends sometimes perhaps to get forgotten, but is obviously key to a lot of the tenant requirement, as is bathrooms. We can go on from there. So who did we award to in the end? So as you can see, we have a lot of the people you would expect, a lot of the names you would expect to see, but some perhaps where you perhaps didn't expect to see quite as much. And if I take one example of Robert Price is very Wales orientated, Welsh company, deal a lot in South Wales. And we had some new names as well, or some names that perhaps you don't know as well, like Savini and people like that. So I think overall we have a national network of majors and not so majors with regional branch presence. And one of the questions that we were very clear of is the regional capabilities. It's all very easy appointing Travis Perkins to something, but if they can't actually be there, then you know the quality of supply and delivery of supply and that supply performance is equally important as getting the best price. And what we're trying to do here with this framework is deliver not only cost efficiencies but also operational effectiveness as well. So that was, and so the next one, once again, we have a very good spread of expertise and skill. And one has to say that these people were appointed, their submissions were generally hugely impressive. They were very good, very tailored to what we needed, and showed great capability. And if I point out perhaps just one, where you look at ProCare on aids and adaptations, but also in bathrooms. So there was a lot of mix here where we had the ability to be very flexible with a single supplier or with a group of suppliers. Next, please. So how it works is that it's a three-way relationship. We have the supplier signs up on the framework agreement with ourselves. They have then a call-off contract between them and you, which we oversee, and then we have the terms of membership between yourselves and us. So there are two ways that we can actually you can access this framework. One is a direct call off, and that direct call off, unlike many frameworks, isn't confined to just being in ranking order. So number one is the only one you can do, and so on and so on. We can actually direct award to any of the appointed merchants that are on. So it's really important that is stressed, that there is no requirement to just only award to number ones. And then the second option is to do a further competition. Many will know that's also called a mini competition, and that assessment of the suppliers is very much on what you want, tailored to what you need, what your requirements are, what your basket of goods are, and what your overall objectives are. Go next. So direct award, you can instruct the provision of supply and services from anyone that's on the list. Your requirements and your business needs are the driver behind this totally. We will work to the way that you direct us to do it. We will advise you on the best way that can be achieved, but at all points where we can evidence that value for money based on that total cost of ownership approach. So the suppliers are very, very keen on this, obviously, because they want to get away from competition if they can, but it is a very, very important element of this new framework. We'll go to the next one, please. The process is very, very simple. We and you agree which is the best place to meet your need, which supplier is, and then we liaise, we assess, and we notify the acceptance once they've made a proposal to you about what they really can do and how they can satisfy that specific need that you will have. And then we will issue the call-off contract based upon that form of contract that you want. Thanks, Andrew. Further competition is very much along the lines of you would expect. It's a tendering exercise. It's conducted, and we will manage with that. Or you can do it yourselves. There are two elements to this. One is you can have the compliant access to the framework, and then you can do the thing yourself if you want to, but we give you the compliance, the OSU compliance, or alternatively, we can actually manage the whole process for you. The suppliers are selected by the lot, and it's all about their ability to service. It's not about just the cheapest. And the variance that we can put on the acceptance criteria, although we used 50-50 in the original ITT for the framework, we can actually adapt that by up to 20% plus or minus. So you may say, yeah, I want 70% price and 30% quality, or you may very well want it the other way around, whichever way you want. So that can be tailored to your need. And once again, I want to stress that what we are offering here is a unique opportunity where we can actually help and tailor a solution specifically to what you want, not some kind of standard way. So the process for further competition is to prepare the brief, obviously, and we will sit with you and work through that. That's the basket of goods, and I know with some of you, we're all very aware that we've done this before. We developed the tender, and very much in conjunction with each other. You know, we will do it exactly how you want it to be done, and put it there, and put the ITT out to all the framework suppliers. The evaluation is a joint effort, and we can do it either jointly, separately, or whatever way we want to do that. Make the notification, then we'll issue the call-off agreement. Okay, so the pricing mechanism is quite an important element, and the pricing is fixed for 12 months on most of the lots, the exception being lot 3, plumbing and heating, where there is a reliance on some of the raw materials that can be extremely volatile, copper being an example. And we've sort of worked out that perhaps a quarterly review is due on those kind of materials. But that doesn't say that it's everything that's under the plumbing and heating lot, because also copper greatly affects cable, so therefore electrical is there. So it's very selective of those that are on, but most of the categories are under a 12-month fixed period, with an annual adjustment 12 months from the date of the contract. The next line is very important. It has to reflect actual cost changes. This is just not an opportunity for a supplier to say, well, I fancy a bit more of that, and I'll add a bit onto that and a bit onto this, because everything that they do, they have to evidence very, very clearly by manufacturer's letter or by some other method. Perhaps with copper, it's to do with the LME and the movement in the raw material cost, which we actually will be assessing and reviewing every month anyway. So there's very little room for unnecessary price change. Next one, please, Andrew. A key element of what we actually asked them to answer would be analytics and reporting. And we were very, very keen to be sure that they understood that the responsibility to produce the analytics and the reports in a very accurate and checkable manner rested on the shoulders of the merchants. So they are expected to clearly measure and demonstrate that maturity to show where investment improvements can be made, and to make sure that there is no off agreement spend. So what we want to do is minimize the risk of ad hoc spend, so that everything's very controlled and measured on a monthly basis by a very, very clear report in whichever format that you as a member want. It's not a set format. If you want it in one way and you want it transmitted to you in a particular way, you know, either manually or through an interface, then that is what is needed to happen, and that's written into the agreement, as are indeed the monthly KPI performances, which will be assessed, and we will act as the overseer and the mediator if there are any issues. So we will step in if we see issues that are not correct, or indeed the reports are not right. But you know, once again, if you have the right data, it will save you a huge amount of time in your own operation and process. Thank you, Andrew. So the benefits are really split into 4 major areas. Number 1, obviously, is social value, very specific to your needs, and again, embedded into that whole delivery and the performance. I'll go into that in a short time in the next few slides. This is very much about tailored solutions with exclusive price, and which are those prices being exclusive have been heavily supported by both manufacturers and merchants. Huge emphasis on delivery, obviously, as you would expect. You're not going to get value for money if you're not going to get good delivery. So contract management, hugely important, with an easy process to go through, nothing onerous in the way that we actually do this. And really, I think more than anything, what we're trying to do is to enhance your own procurement operation, but with the skilled and experienced personnel and advice that we have within our organisation. And obviously, finally, we've got a supply base that we feel is probably one of the best that is around, in as much that the way that not only we've appointed these people and asked those very, very important questions, but also the way that we are going to manage it. Responsibility for delivery rests entirely with them, and they have been made very, very clear that, you know, we will not accept anything but the best. Thanks, Andrew. So if I go on to social value, can we go to the next one, Andrew, please? Thanks. We all know why we should deliver it. There is a public requirement, but also we've got to find some way of making this easy to deliver. So, you know, how do we do that? We've got a social value framework clause. So when the suppliers have signed up for the framework agreement, which the majority of them have done so far, there is a very, very clear statement about the ability to deliver social value. We have very clear plans and the way that we do it, and we have this social value credit. So if we go to the next one, it's in a little bit more depth. So the social value outcomes for each call-off, they are very much bespoke to you. So what you think is what needs to be there, they will be there. It'll be documented in every stage. There's 10 service credits for every £100,000 of supply. We wanted to find a way where not only we can say we're delivering, but, you know, it's very often that it's not celebrated in any way. So, you know, we felt that what we needed was a real delivery plan that was agreed at the beginning of any contract, that actually said these are the things we will do, and it can then be assessed against that original plan. And then that gives us the opportunity to actually use a template that we've got to determine exactly what we have achieved and to celebrate that success. So a clearly definable way of actually delivering social value. We go next, Andrew, please. So the credits are, this is just a snapshot of some of the things that we look at, and this is written into contracts. So things like career advice and mentoring and education and providing more employment, giving more training opportunities, you know, focusing on delivering to the local community, to your local community. These are things that are, you know, important to be able to show social value in a demonstrable way, and also showing that you're looking after your local area and your local community. Next one, Andrew. So in terms of delivery, we have a specific, So in terms of delivery, we have a specific project plan that's tailored to your needs. It gives the opportunity for non-employment and training. It has to be sustainable, of course it does. But once again, it's, you know, making sure that that relationship with the supplier base and with the member base is sustained and actually brings results, not only direct results and cashable results, but also the non-cashable ones, which I think is also included in this. And we have very, very straightforward reporting, so it's very, very easy to assess how good we're doing and how we're not, perhaps, you know. So to the next steps. So the framework agreements have been signed by suppliers via DocuSign. We would love to establish one-to-one meetings by teams with yourselves to establish protocols and requirements and how we can help. And the framework expires in 4 years' time. So it's now live, it's now running. We have a number of projects on the go already. And you know, the uniqueness of it with regards to the direct award, with the mix of it, the scope, It's basically a one-stop shop, backed up by an immense experience and expertise and relevant skills to procurement. Next one, please, Andrew. So we're going to deliver. We're marketing at the moment. There are a lot of things happening. We have a homes event next week, where one of the forums that we're looking at and we're going to be involved in is about the challenges that face the public sector at the moment in terms of procurement and supply chain resilience, which I think will be quite interesting. We have some very interesting speakers on there. We are growing from our supply base, and a lot of the suppliers that we have are, when they're asked the question, which framework should we use, are very clearly stating that this is the one that will give them most options. We're in a lot of newsletters, and we're constantly evaluating our offering to see how we can make it better. We're only a couple of weeks in, but you know, with everything, if you don't keep looking at it, you'll go backwards. So that's all. That's where we are with the framework. Can we just go to the next one, Andrew, if I may? So we want to maximise the social value. We want to achieve and deliver to you value for money. We want to give you the procurement efficiencies, and we give you the access to a pre-qualified and very experienced supply chain across a lot of lots, which gives you a lot of options. And I think by doing that, we want to help you buy smarter and to make that real impact, both internally and externally within your organisation and within the sector altogether. So that's my detail. I've spoke to a lot of you, so you probably know that already. And can we go to a Q&A, Andrew, if we can?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks very much for that, Jeff. And yeah, hopefully you will agree that that's a pretty comprehensive run through the framework, but perhaps most importantly, how we've been able to build in the sort of innovation and the requirements that no doubt are familiar to you. We have had a couple of questions. I did say in this sort of introduction, if you want to relay the question yourself and speak, we can unmute you, but you know, please do continue to ask the question. So just a couple have come through, Jeff, so I'll just to start with relay them to you, which is, so the first part of the question is, on past contracts we've always have price increases passed on to us, but getting the reductions is much harder when we know prices do come down. For example, you talked about copper going up, but also copper can come down. Yep. Can you outline what Fusion21 will do to make sure these savings are passed on to members?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you quoted a very good one there in copper. If I remember 12 months ago, or just over 12 months ago, copper actually went down by about 5% one month, and the next month it went up by 3%. So what we intend to do is aggregate those kind of things so that we actually negate the effect of an increase and take advantage of a reduction. So in a case like that, we might look at saying, okay, over that period of time, we saw that movement, but if we flatten that out, actually it probably makes no difference whatsoever. So by doing the kind of things that we're doing with raw material, which is to monthly actually assess the movement and then constantly look at what the forecasts are, we can do that. And I think you're absolutely right. It's easy to, when a lot of merchants are good at actually giving you increases, but not so good at giving you reductions. And one of the things with our process is the fact, if you want an increase, you have to be very, very clear about how you support that proposal. Equally so, because we are so close to the market and we can look at that on a regular basis, when we see things that are actually being reduced in terms of price, we will actively seek that reduction from the merchants. So price control to me is one of the major things we have to do, and I've written a whole process by which we are going to do that. So I think in the future it's not going to be so easy to get away with just an increase. We want reduction as well. So we want to see a continual improvement in all areas of delivery. But price is absolutely important, and if we don't manage that properly, then we are to blame.
Okay, thanks for that, Jeff. So second question, again, we're all preoccupied currently with COVID, but we all know that the dreaded B word is coming fast on the horizon. So what provisions for Brexit and possible tariffs have been built in?
We asked this question in the ITT of all the merchants and asked them to build in any kind of issues. What we've equally done on almost a 2-weekly basis have been reviewing with all the supply base what they considered to be the threat of Brexit and what possible implication that would bring. I have to say, it changes. I mean, a few months ago, it was plaster and plasterboard that were causing the big issue because of Brexit or the potential of Brexit. That seems to have gone away. The one at the moment is timber. There are huge problems. I sat in a forum very recently, which was just with timber merchants, both in the UK and overseas, and it was clear that there are major issues with the supply, because certain countries in the world are buying more timber than they ever done in their lives, and other countries that are producers, places like Finland, which is a big producer of timber, are actually selling most of it to Russia. So therefore the supply is becoming low, but the price then, if you're in one of the other countries, is becoming high because of supply and demand, obviously. But what I equally would like to do going forward is issue almost a monthly bulletin about how we see the market and whatever, a review of how we're seeing it from a supply-based point of view. I think that, I don't know what you think, but I think that might be very useful to help you guys and also show where we perhaps are going to have problems in the future. You know.
Okay, Jeff. Further question, which is around, if you like, how members are sort of access materials and you know, things like sort of, you know, pop-up stores and you know, how some of the merchants are bringing in that innovation around supply. You know, as we all know, it's about getting the kitchen to the right house at the right time. It's about having the ability to top up van supplies and so on. I just wondered if you might just talk about some of the innovation and things that have come out of the process and are now included in the framework.
That question obviously came from somebody who knows me, because the mention of the pop-up store, which you know I'm quite an advocate of. But you know, the merchant base has got a lot of innovation in it, a lot of which is never actually marketed, I don't think, in the correct way. So we've been very keen to, in our ITT again, was to ask the question about what makes you unique. You know, what have you got that other people haven't got? And we have got things like, you know, we have Grafton with the pop-up store, which is a great innovation, and it's a fantastic thing. You know, one of the things that is very important is van stock management. You know, it's all right putting advanced stock management in, but if you don't actually make it work, what's the point of it? So therefore, the things like the interface between systems to make sure that's right and it's maintained at the right level is very, very important. So we asked all those questions, and they're all the kind of things that would come out when we look at a project and say, okay, where do we want this to be? It's driven more by the need of the member, by the need of you guys to say, this is what I want. Now you make it work for me. And that's our role. is to find that right solution that absolutely fits your requirement. And with the kind of supply base that we've got now and the close interaction we've got with them, I think that's achievable. So hopefully that still gives you some of the ideas. But you know, there are things like, as I say, advanced stock management. There's managed store. There's a milk run idea where we, you know, some of the suppliers can actually sort of deliver direct to site. Because what are we trying to do here at the end of the day? We're trying to make the operative downtime as minimal as possible and increase as much as possible the job completion ratio. And the only way we can do that is to get the goods where they need to be at the right time, to the right quality, where there's no question it can be done. And there are numerous ways that we can do that, but we will tailor a solution to your requirement.
Okay, thanks. Please keep the questions coming in if you've got them. Just had one in now. So as far as can we get a copy of the presentation circulated? Yeah, that's absolutely no problem. And is there a scalability pricing matrix for larger volumes, or is it fixed?
No, I thought somebody might ask this question, and obviously what we do is we have a standard price list, which is what we've got now. That is the most any member would ever pay for anything through the framework. However, we would not expect the majority of users to be paying that price. And absolutely right. If there is a volume, then that volume will drive a price, and we will bespoke the solution and the price to your requirement.
Excellent. Okay. Again, keep your questions coming through. We've got a few more minutes. Just in touching back on the sort of direct award options. Again, you talked about it doesn't have to be just to the number one ranked organisation. What would be the advantages of going to someone that was lower ranked on the framework and not actually picking the one that was number one ranked in the region?
Well, I think there is a, you know, if people have an experience of a particular supplier, and that's always been good, and they've always been, you know, the way that it was required to be, then that's one reason why you would want to go perhaps further down the list. Second reason is there might be a supplier further down the list that has a more acceptable branch network within that region. That might be another reason. Another reason is, like we just talked, they might have a better solution that fits that bill. And it may be that at the end of the day, it's all perfectly okay, everything's running fine, but you need to renew that contract, and it gives you the opportunity just not to bother with a competition. But at all times, it has to be remembered that even if we go to direct award, we would still be sure that we're getting the correct value for money. So we would still make sure that the service was right, and we would still write a set of KPIs and SLAs that demanded a certain level of performance from the supplier, also in the cost base as well. So it's not just fine, let's go with that guy because he's okay. There is an element of making sure total suitability.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jeff. I haven't got any more questions on the screen, but so I'm going to ask you one more question. But the audience, we still have a few more minutes, albeit that I won't keep you all here if there are no more questions. But the sort of question from me, Jeff, is again, you mentioned in the presentation that you believe that this offer is sort of, you know, best in class, and again, I know that you've got lots of experience in having worked in procurement and doing this for a while. So what is it specifically about this framework that you believe does drive that value to market and therefore hopefully our Fusion members?
I think our offering is unique in as much that there is the direct award capability. Obviously, it has a flexibility within it because of the range and the scope that we put into it. It is very much putting more pressure onto the merchant to perform, you know, in many ways, not only price-wise and price maintenance, but overall delivery. And that's how they're going to be assessed. So, you know, we set about putting this together with very much the clear intention was that this was going to work for the sector. It was not going to be, this is what we think you need, but this is what we want you know, this is what you want. And that came back from members to say, this is the kind of things we want. There were several headings. One was the direct award, of course it was. One was flexibility. The other was a scope. You know, there's a lot of frameworks out there, but the lots are split into frameworks as opposed to one framework that covers a lot of lots, and has the flexibility within it to do a lot of things, you know, and that's where it becomes unique. And yeah, you know, I have a lot of experience in this area, you know, and we've made it very clear that you know, it's not going to be like it is before. We're not going to permit price variance for no reason. We're not going to permit less than good performance, and that performance has to cover every aspect of what you as a member would expect.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks very much for that. And I can't see any more questions, so I'm going to wrap up this morning's session, and I'm going to thank on your behalf the audience, Jeff, for that excellent presentation. Reminder in terms of please do contact Jeff or myself or any member of the Fusion team, and we would be delighted to have some further conversations. And finally, thank you, the audience, for being with us this morning. It's great to see so many of you online. Hope you've enjoyed the presentation. As Jeff said, we are at the Virtual Homes Conference next week, so please look out for some of our sessions that we're running there. We will be also continuing with our further webinars going forward. So hopefully you'll all stay safe. I understand we're all going to find out which tier we're in very shortly. So anyway, stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day. And finally, thanks again for joining.
Thanks very much, guys. Goodbye.